What is up, Jordan? And what is up, my fellow parents? Today is going to be fun. We are going to go deep. We are going to laugh. We're going to celebrate our kids. We're going to grow as parents. Jordan, are you ready to rock this thing?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Hey, I just want to say thank you for you listening to this. Thank you so much. Like, people are really listening to this podcast. It's being seen on the top charts. People are talking about it, and it's because of you. So thank you, my fellow parent and listening. It's just so exciting. Jordan, I've got some big news to share with you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Jordan, this podcast is one of the top 10 most popular parenting podcasts in the world. I'm not joking.
Wild.
That's wild. It's wild
for a number of reasons. I mean, we've got that's great. We're helping so many people. We got so many listeners. But maybe that's a problem too. There's so many people that have questions and are trying to figure this parenting thing out, you know?
I just want to say thank you, and I want you to know you're not alone. What you're going through, we're going through this as everyday parents. There's other parents out there, and it just is so heartwarming to Jordan and I to go on, whether you go on this like Topcast or Chartable or Phonic, you go and you can see our picture on there, Jordan, the Sean Donohue show, and people are really responding in the reviews that you can leave on Apple Top Podcasts. Can I read a couple of them? I'm sitting there poolside with my wife. We're at the gym, at the pool at the gym, and I shared with my wife Danielle and our friend Jess, who was there. It's like, can I read a couple of these reviews? They're like so heartwarming. This person writes, "True My" is what the person wrote. "This is my new favorite podcast. The other reviews have covered it from stem to stern. I realized so much about my kids, my spouse, and myself in a short amount of time. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Also, his Instagram is The Family Coach, and he has a variety of tools that I'm applying to my life." Jordan, that's what it's about right there, helping people.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so great. And I love hearing that as well. And I love when you can tell when the person is writing it, they just like are showing you their love and their joy, because ultimately what we're trying to do is make their lives easier, right? Because it can be so stressful. So that's good that hopefully it's working.
And when I read you this next two, I just hope you see the tone. You are not alone. HP and LB, which could be Long Beach, I don't know. Parenting in these times can feel so daunting. Thank you for the straightforward messages and the practicals on how to raise our kiddos to be solid human beings. Solid.
Nice. Appreciate that.
How about this one? Here's one more. This one really, really connects with me. Okay, this person is named Win With Him Mike. Incredible podcast, worth listening to. What a great podcast this is. The wisdom and insight shared on this podcast is hands down incredible. If you're looking for tips and tricks to become a great parent, I highly recommend you listen to every episode. Super excited to share this with so many other people. The world needs more of this. Thank you. My heart is exploding.
And what do you know? The stuff you've been teaching actually works, Sean. That's awesome.
Oh man, we love, we have a lot of jobs in our life, but just loving on our kids, parenting, being normal, healthy, strong adults. Like this is our top job. And it's just so meaningful to be.
We make better kids. We make a better world. So that's the ultimate goal.
Seriously, we're changing the world through parenting.
Yeah.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does. It's
we
doable.
Need better people.
We're doing it.
Good parents. Yeah.
We're solving problems. We're solving societal problems. So here's what we're doing here today. I've been listening to you and your sons and daughters for a long time. 25 years of listening to kids, and they tell me their secrets. They tell me in private sessions. They tell me their pain points. And I'm here to tell you some things, because here's part 2 of what kids wish their parents knew. And we wanted to do numerous parts of this because I was pretty happy to see this, Jordan. Of all of our episodes, this is our part 1 is number 5 of our most popular episodes, man.
I wonder why that is. I wonder if us parents are just trying to figure, that's what it is. Us parents are just trying to figure out what in the heck is going on in our kids' minds.
Yes.
And ultimately we want them to tell us, and most of the time they don't.
Oh, dang kids. Right. They don't tell us. Why don't they tell us? We're going to
Yeah,
talk
why
about
do they
something
tell you? Why do they tell you, but they won't tell their parents? They
interesting.
whether it's trust or
Right.
they're too vulnerable, they're scared. I don't know.
Well, we're gonna talk about you here because in a little bit because the two things we're gonna share with parents, we're gonna do something different. We're gonna really psychoanalyze these things. But there was something on your heart that you're gonna share that you didn't even share with your parents as much as you wish you did. And so can't wait for y'all to hear some really personal stories that Jarrett, Jordan, and I are going to share with you here today. But let's talk about this word psychoanalyze because we're going to do something different here. Now, if you go on like the top parenting podcast, here's something really interesting. Usually you'll see there is that the top podcasts are normally super smart women, Jordan. Like they're like
Yeah.
therapists or they're like
Okay.
psychologists. They're
Great.
not just like we are not superstar smart women, are we?
Definitely not.
No,
Definitely not.
Or you'll see things like the National Geographic, or you'll see like this Story Pirates. There's a lot of like on the Apple podcast. There's a lot of storytelling. But here's something cool. Here's a fun fact. You ready for something that's really fun and it's a fact?
What?
Normally on the top charts, we are the top rated men on the on parenting.
So
podcast.
You've got this spectrum: super smart women and really dumb guys.
Yeah, from San Diego, dude. Just talking. They say "dude" too much, and we still have accents. That was somebody even wrote on one of the reviews. She said something about she loves our accents. Do you think we have like a San Diego accent?
No.
Well, I don't know because you're such a polished TV guy. You probably got rid of it back.
Hey,
in
bro,
the day.
don't tell me what I am and what I'm not.
Yeah, you can't say it on the air.
Come on, dude. Yeah,
you got to be all fancy. You had to polish it out, not me. All right, so what do you think about this term psychoanalyzing our children? Do you think we could do this?
I don't even know what that means. So, like, number one, I analyze my children and I analyze my child, but to psychoanalyze, does that mean I'm trying to figure out what's going on in their mind?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on between the ears.
It does not mean you're a psychopath. It just means you're really trying to figure out their thoughts, their minds, their emotions, and I think we can do this, man. I really think we can.
I mean, I just go with the excuse. They're kids. They don't know what's going on in their own mind.
Get out your shovel, though. We're gonna go deep, like those super smart doctor lady people that are really good at podcasting. Okay.
All right. So let's psychoanalyze something.
They're like our colleagues right now, right? We're up in their spectrum. We elevated ourselves to the conversation. All right. We're in there now. Here's something funny. Before we talk about children, there's probably other topics that you and I would probably be better at psychoanalyzing than children's psychology, right? So let me ask you, top of your head, putting you on the spot, what other topics do you think you'd be better at, more articulate, and more qualified?
You know what I love psychoanalyzing? I love psychoanalyzing movies with another fellow movie buff. Some of the classics, some of the good movies that we grew up with, that I grew up with in the 80s and 90s, going back. So I enjoyed that.
Tell me one movie you like psychoanalyzing, because we just watched Interstellar as a family.
Oh, that's top 5 favorite movie for me, man. I love Interstellar.
Deep. It's
so good.
It's so complex, man. I think it's actually too complicated, but that's
that's what's so great about it. It's time travel, bro. There's so many different ideas of how time is. It's not linear.
We're doing it right now. Okay. Besides psychoanalyzing sci-fi movies, what other issues would you think you'd be really good at psychoanalyzing? All right, be real now. Don't hold back.
Let's psychoanalyze some cookies, some chocolate chip cookies. So that is my kryptonite. That is my kryptonite.
You've mentioned that in previous episodes. On that point, you know what I would love to analyze one day? Probably will not make a podcast of it, but salsa. Salsa.
Well, being from San Diego, I could see that.
That's my favorite food. I nerd out on salsa. I love it. I could talk about it. Like, if you want to hear someone psychoanalyze food, just go to Napa Valley and you see a bunch of nerdy wine snobs. They'll sit here and talk about the aromas of oak and almond.
Yeah, but that's fun.
It's fun for like an hour. But I realized after living right next to Napa Valley for so long, I don't like wine tasting. I don't want you to tell me about where the freaking this smells like cotton candy, or why the oak barrels, or why this. Just give me a glass of wine and leave me alone. Let me sit in a nice Adirondack chair. look at my
Right.
amazing wife and some friends and have a good time, right? I don't want to
I
listen to
I
you
got a
tell
bunch
me.
of guys right now. They psychoanalyze whiskey like crazy, and
Oh,
I'm
that's
like,
definitely a
I
thing.
I not, I just give me some. I don't know
Yeah.
anything about this.
Dude, one thing I love psychoanalyze. I love backpacking, but being there on the trail out in the middle of nowhere and not really knowing where to go because you can't see the trail and you have to like gauge the sun and the water supply and you have to like you're guiding the trip. So I have other dudes with me and they're kind of relying on me to keep them alive and keep them safe. Like that's a great feeling for me, dude. That like gets in my skin and my
Wow.
masculine like I'm like out here, we're surviving, and there's elements, there's danger all around.
Yeah.
You got anything like that? Like, you like psychoanalyzing any of your outdoorsy things? You do
I mean,
so
that's
much of it.
hardcore. I mean, because you're not only psychoanalyzing, I can't even say it, the landscape, but you're psychoanalyzing everyone you're with to make sure everyone has a sane head while they're out there with you so they don't go crazy,
It happens, man.
so to
People have gone
speak.
crazy.
I'm
I went
sure.
crazy once, and
Did you?
like it's a legit story. Like I've had some serious bad stuff that happened to me. But yeah, man, it's scary out there in the middle of nowhere. If someone breaks an ankle or a leg, it's never happened. You're gonna have to pick him up or piggyback that dude back, and
Yeah.
that's super scary. So, anything else when you think of
I
outdoorsy
mean,
analyzing before we talk about children?
I love talking hunting and fishing with guys in that industry. It's really fun, and we all psychoanalyze, each other's hunting methods, and that's
Yeah.
always pretty cool as well. Everyone's got their own way of doing things, but it's always
Mm-hmm.
fun to kind of whatever you're into, whether it's wine or if you're in Texas, queso. Everyone
Oh yeah.
psychoanalyzes queso in
I
Texas.
do.
It can be
So
fun. You
Texas.
could go pretty deep on any specific topic, and so now I don't even think I would even comprehend the idea of going deep and psychoanalyzing our
Well,
kids.
we're going to try right now. We're going to do our best. So, here's what we're going to share two things of what kids wish their parents knew. Now, just a reminder if you listen to part one, I've been teaching a class for about 12 years now called What Kids Wish Their Parents Knew. And it's just a highly reviewed class, and there's 10 things that I teach. And so we're just going to keep kind of going through this list, and I'll keep adding to the list if it anyways helps you. But I'm really, really passionate about the two things that I want to share. And I want us to really take a breath as you listen to this and think about your children in a deep way. Like, you think about, let's analyze them to really go into their minds, into their fears, into the reasons why they say what they say and they act why they act. The first thing that our kids want us to know, because this is what they really want us to know. They really want us to know this, guys. I'm being very serious. When I am bad, I want you to know I'm not trying to be bad. Just sit on that for a second. Whether your kid is 2, 6, 9, 13, or 17, this is what they want us to know. Hey, when I'm bad, when I make a bad decision, or when I make a mistake, when I do something mean or lose my temper, this is what they're trying to let us know. They want us to know this. I want you to know, Mom, Dad, I'm not trying to be bad.
Is this across the board, though? Is this
Hmm.
for every kid? And when I say this, is this
Mm-hmm.
for the kids that are, let's just say, what we would consider a bad kid, right? Someone who has a problem with
Mm.
stealing and does it
Mm.
over and over again, or an addiction, or whatever it is.
Mm.
You're saying that
Right.
when they're bad, they're not trying to be bad, but then they keep doing it, knowing it's
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I can't speak for every kid, but what I can do is I have met those kids and counseled them and coached them for years and years. And I can tell you the truth is that um, they really don't like being bad. They like having fun, but being bad or being like in the outskirts of society or the outskirts of their family or being scolded or feeling like they're a bad person, that's not fun, man. They don't like that. They don't like that feeling.
So then my argument would be, just playing the tough parent here role,
Yeah.
is, well, if you don't like it, then stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
of course.
therefore the family will be accepting again and we will bring you
Yes.
back in. So
It's
there's
that
an
easy.
idea of like we have to punish and
Right.
push to where they get embarrassed and then realize, I don't like this. I have to turn my actions around.
I'm really glad you said that because every single parent is thinking that thought. Well, if you don't like being bad, if you don't like going through this, well, then act up. Just behave better. But do you
Hmm.
realize who we're talking about here? We're talking about children, my man.
Right.
Right? You think we
Yeah.
just tell a 5-year-old or a 9-year-old, hey, act up, and that's it? It's that easy?
Right.
Let's
But a 16-year-old, a
hey,
17-year-old.
hey, we were 16 and 17 once, and as these super smart doctor ladies who are our colleagues would tell us, and I can tell you too, there's a lot of similarities, man, between a 16-year-old and a 6-year-old. There's a lot of
Really?
similarities. Yes, the impulsivity, the
Yeah.
selfishness. Now, here is where the psychoanalysis comes in, all right? I'm going to ask you some tough questions. I want you to ask me the same ones back or anything that comes to mind. You ready?
All
And
right.
as you're listening to this, I want you to come up with your own answers because I'm going to ask you the same question, okay? How would it change you as a parent? This is a deep question. You ready?
Yeah.
How would it change your mindset if your child came up to you right now in the most sweetest, vulnerable voice? Your most challenging child looked at you and said, hey, mom, dad, can I talk to you? And I want you to know that when I'm bad and when I'm doing these things that I know you don't like, I just want you to know I'm not trying to be bad. How would that impact you? Or they said it in the most genuine, real, vulnerable way.
It would completely open me up and bring down any wall that has been put up because of whatever it was, right?
Really, really, what an
Yeah.
answer. Why?
Yeah, it would. It's like when we do things that are bad, sometimes we double down on it.
Mm-hmm.
We start to get hardened, our heart gets hardened, and it's kind of like fighting fire with fire, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Or
yeah.
two forces pushing into each other, and they push harder and harder and harder, and there's more tension rather than loosening up and doing like a give and
Gosh.
take, like a dance. And so if a child were to come to me and say that, or like, I'm so sorry I did this, my heart would melt and I'd be like, oh
Mm,
my gosh, it's okay. You're just
right.
human. You didn't mean it.
So your heart, so what you're saying to me is your heart would melt and you would be filled with more grace
Correct.
and
Be-
gentleness
and I think that's
and
also
understanding.
because they're putting in, they would have come forward with a step that like they understand what's wrong and they, 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 they're taking action to make it better.
Yeah, it's like they're taking responsibility.
They're
They're
taking
taking self-awareness.
responsibility.
Here's the next question, similar to the first. You ready?
Yeah.
If your child would come to you in the morning, every morning, and they were to say to you, hey, in the most vulnerable, whether they're your 18-year-old or they're your 8-year-old or your 2-year-old is driving you nuts, and say to you, hey, mom, dad, I just want you to know that things are going to happen today. And I want you to know that when I'm bad, I'm not trying to be bad. How would that impact you, your mind, your heart, your parenting?
Well, kiddo, don't be bad then.
No, I'm
Yeah,
saying
I know
every
what you're saying.
day.
I'm teasing.
I know you are. Every
Um,
day. I mean, I wouldn't that just if that were to impact you by them saying it one time would it impact you that way, but every day. Because here's what I'm telling you guys. I about I planned this episode about a month and a half ago, and my 7-year-old in my office, literally sitting right next to me. And to get ready for this episode, I asked her. I said, Kenzie, she was 6 at the time. She just turned 7. I'm going to do a teaching on what kids wish their parents knew. You tell me, honey. Tell me something you wish I knew or you wish parents knew. And did you know what she said?
did she say that? That
She
was her
said, when
quote.
I'm bad, I want you to know I'm not trying to be bad.
That's so sweet.
That's
That's the sweetest answer.
that actually. So here's partly what I do on these podcasts is
Where you're like, thanks so much. Now get the heck out of my office.
you're being bad.
Right.
No, what kids wish their parents knew is I'm just like we are just a translator. We're just a megaphone. We're just translating because our kids do not have the articulation ability to communicate this to you. But Jordan, let me just say this. I want you to imagine your two twins right now. They're 9. And I want you to really do work on your heart right now. And how would you really respond if your two twins said to you in the most genuine, loving tone, they said, "Dad, I want you to know when I'm bad, I'm not trying to be bad."
I've had moments like that. And I love those moments. It's so great. It makes me see the innocence that my children still have. And I hope they have that as long as possible. But unfortunately, this world hardens us. And as we get older, we're less likely to say things like that.
Well, that's why we're doing this podcast. We're not going to let this world or this society hardens. We're going to do our best to really teach our kids the art of humanism, that they can still be kids, they can still share their feelings, they can still be close. Now, on that same topic, let me ask you, if you were to implement this into your parenting, my fellow listener, my fellow parent, if you were to start talking to yourself this way, and you say to yourself when you wake up in the morning, you know what, my kid's going to act out today, and they're not trying to hurt me. They're not trying to be bad. They're just a kid. If you were to say that to yourself every morning, or in the middle of a tantrum or a bad behavioral episode, how would that impact you?
That would completely, hopefully, change your reaction toward that event.
I think it would.
I mean, that happened to me when my kids would freak out on me. I would get so upset, and then I started to try and figure out what was going on. And
Mm-hmm.
again, going back to
Mm-hmm.
sugar intake or sleep or overexhaustion, I started to think a little more like that. I never said those words, but I started to
Right.
be like, "Hey, it's okay they're acting like this because they're all out of sorts, or
Yeah.
they're not on their normal
Right.
routine."
Just
And
on
so
that same
yeah,
Sorry. Yeah. On that same point, my one of the most challenging parts of my parenting vibe right now is my 7-year-old's bedtime routine. He's just been really struggling with it for like 2 years. So I say to myself, you know what? She's not really trying to be bad. She's not trying to bother me. She just wants to be with me. She wants to be with the family. She's delaying going in this cave called her bedroom, where she's going to be isolated all by herself in the dark, away from the whole family, while we're still going to stay up and hang out. And so, of course, she's going to act this way every night because she wants to be with us. That's what I say in my self talk. And it really helps me in my mental health to not snap, to not rage, and to have patience for this little human being.
yeah. So, as your kids get older and our kids get older, and someone's listening right now and they're like, "Man, this makes sense." I would really like, that was so sweet what Sean's daughter said to him. Maybe I should open up to my kids and ask them
Mm-hmm.
what they wish I knew. But I would imagine,
Good.
especially in your industry, talking to all these kids, they're less likely to say sweet things like that or even open up at all.
Well, my response to that is do it. Let's all do it.
Okay.
You should do it too. I'll do it. Let's go
Okay.
ask my older teenagers. Tell me something you wish, and let's get
I
ready to
knew.
share that in episode 3 of part 3 of this. No, let's do that.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. We'll each come back and tell us, and then you can and if you want to be a part of this episode, then go on my Instagram and leave me a message on one of my videos or something about, hey, I asked my kids what kids wish their parents knew, and this is what my kid told me, and then I can share your answer on the Net podcast. But here's the point that I want to teach. Let me give you a powerful parenting tool. Let me say it, and Jordan, I want you to respond. Are you ready? Right now, what we've been talking about is what our kids want us to know. Like, hey, when I'm bad, I'm not trying to be bad. But really what we're focusing on is, how do we think about parenting? Are we going to, how do we respond in our own minds and our behaviors when our kids are being bad? Because here's what I'm thinking. Good parenting is less about how you talk to your kids, and it's more about how you talk to yourself. Good parenting is less about how you talk to your children than it is about how you talk to yourself.
Yeah. And, you've done a good job with teaching us that through these last several podcasts, taking a moment, take a break if you need to, trying to figure out your own thoughts. How are we going to react to a situation, and then move the conversation forward, because if we stoop down to that level, we'll never get anywhere.
Now, before we move on to point two, let's do our best to psychoanalyze a little bit more. Why? Let me put you on the spot here. Why do our kids want us to know this? Why do they want us to know? Why did my daughter say that to me?
That was really sweet.
I know, but why? Of all the things she could have said, a million billion options, why did she say that? What is going on in her psychology and her mind that she would share that?
Maybe she wants to make her daddy proud, and she sees when she's bad that her daddy gets mad, and she doesn't like that. So she wants to let her daddy know, I'm trying, but sometimes I mess up.
That has to be it, right?
It's got to be it.
They don't.
She doesn't know this. This is too deep for a little kid to know this, but maybe
There's-
deep down, that's what it is.
I think that's what it is. I think there's other reasons too, but that's the first thing I was thinking. She doesn't like how I respond when she's, quote, bad, right?
Yeah.
And she doesn't like how it hurts me, how it affects me. And she wants me to know, like, hey, I want you to know, like think about this in marriage. In marriage is, I think, a really good example. How often do you say this to your spouse? Probably a lot. If you're in a healthy marriage, you probably say this a lot. Like, hey, I want you to know I wasn't trying to hurt you. I wasn't trying to. It just happened. And I hope you can forgive me, or I'm really sorry.
Right.
We say that. Don't we say that a lot in healthy
Well,
marriages?
in healthy marriages, yes. A lot of people don't say that, but yeah, we should be saying that.
But why? Why do we say that? Why do we say something like this? Hey,
I say I'm the dumb guy and says the opposite. Instead of like, I didn't mean to do this, I'm sorry you feel this way. I'm like, well, you shouldn't feel that way. Can't tell you how to feel. I'm just telling you shouldn't feel that way. No, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have made you. Yeah.
One of my big struggles in marriage is that sometimes I feel, I'm just being real and vulnerable, I feel like my wife doesn't care about me.
Really?
I
Why?
Yeah, it's got to be my top 5 struggles. Like, she just cares about herself and she doesn't really care about me. So when she says something like that to me, hey, I really wasn't trying to hurt you, it really means a lot, because it kind of helps me get my mind on straight, right? Because I have this like little voice in my head, a little dark voice, a little lying little angel, or a dark little devil cartoon on my shoulder that lies to me and says she doesn't really care about you,
Right.
She just cares about herself. So if she were to say to me in her own ways, when I hurt you, I'm not trying to hurt you. It feels good.
Yeah, it lets you know it wasn't on purpose.
So why would a child say, hey, when I hurt you and I'm bad, I want you to know I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to be bad. It's the same reason, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
our children,
I think so.
I'm doing my best to psychoanalyze here, but I think I'd rather have 2 regular dudes from San Diego psychoanalyze than some nerdy psychologist who's so boring to listen to. Let me try again. Can I take our little shovel and go even a little deeper?
Okay.
Now, I'm hopefully not over talking this, but I think there's something really special here that I really want us to talk about. Okay, so I think our kids want us to know this because they want to be seen for really who they truly are. They want to be seen and they want us to be known. And I think that's truly who they are. They do not want to hurt us. And they want us to know that. They love us. And this is their way. And they're not. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you can relate that to the human experience, right? Like, going back biblically,
Okay.
you love your God, you want to be there for your God, but yet you still sin and you have to ask for forgiveness all the time. You don't want to do it. And I want you to see my true heart, and it's there, but man, this human experience, it's just taken over, and it's hard for me to show my pure heart all the time.
Deep. It's like you want to be known and safe around God. You want to feel safe and sected around God, but and also people. Like, putting you on the spot here. When you think of, ask you a question. Here's the question. When you think of human beings where you feel really safe around them, you feel seen, you feel known, tell me one person that comes to mind, just totally on the spot here.
Yeah, like not judged whatsoever. I
Not
mean,
judged. You're seen. They know you. They
they know
know
you.
you.
They know where you're coming from. Well,
Who's someone that comes to
many of
mind for
us would
you?
argue it'd be the people that we spend most our time with, or it should be, right? So, like,
Mm.
you would hopefully answer that as like your spouse. I mean, I've been with mine since I've been in high school, and so we know each other inside and out. And so there is that
So
feeling
your
there
wife,
of
Danny,
like,
is your first person that you think of, your spouse.
but then you also have that little devil on your shoulder, like you were talking about, that like
Mm.
is chirping in your ear. No matter how much
Mm.
time you spend together, it's like, oh, they're still judging you.
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell them you did this. Hey, why don't you do this little white lie? Because then they're going to judge you. And the
Yeah,
reality is you don't
buddy.
need to do that.
Yeah. First person I think of is my wife, Danielle. I feel very, it's a process though of, I mean, you've been married for like, almost 19 years now. And it's like, there's still work to do I want her to feel seen and to be known. And I want to feel that too. And our children want that with us. They want to be seen and fully known.
With no judgment. The hard part though with that, Sean, is we're parents and we not only we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to like not judge, but we also want to invoke wisdom. And
Yeah,
so
we
there is
do.
this parenting aspect where we have to talk about right and wrong. And the
We do.
reality is sometimes it feels like these kids don't want to be told what's right and wrong because they know it's wrong, but they're still doing it. But you're like the parent trying to guide. So how do we balance? That's tough.
It's tough. Well, that's a really cool transition, because those are the last two things that I was thinking on that topic. Why do our children want us to know this? Why do they want us to know when I'm bad, I'm trying not to be bad? Well, then why are they so bad? Right? If they don't like feeling guilty or shamed or unseen or bad, well, here's a couple of tips for you. Here's my opinion and here's some tips. Our children are little humans, so they struggle with self-control and they are struggling in developing their moral compass, right?
Right.
And so here's a great tip. If your child is struggling or a teenager is struggling with self-control, here's a tip. Talk about it and use the word self-control. You can say, hey, something like this. You know what? I really want to work with you to have more self-control around screens. I know it's really hard, but I really need you to work on having self-control with screens. Hey, I love you're a fiery person and you get really, really, angry at times. And that's a great quality to have. But daughter, I really want us to work together so you can have more self-control around your temper. Hey, son, um, I'm really trying to work with you here about getting to school on time and waking up on time. I know that's hard for you, but I really need you to work on having more self-control in this area. So using that term and maybe using it on a more regular basis, what you're doing is you're teaching high-level emotional intelligence, your emotion, you're coaching your kids in a class that they're
Right.
never going to take a class on. The
Right.
arts of self-control. We could do a whole podcast episode on that. Like, there's 5 great tips to help your kid with self-control. One of those tips is going to be to use the term self-control in a sentence and make it a normal word in your house.
Yeah. And language is big, just from what we've learned on this podcast, is like, it's so funny. I was literally just, I think I was praying last night. I don't remember, but it was like talking about the idea of communication. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
isn't this so funny? We have like evolved as these
Mm-hmm.
beings above the animals. We communicate, but how much communication is non communication? How much
Yeah.
communication is like through eyes, sight, through body
So,
language,
yeah.
through silence, right? But like what you teach is we need to open up these flappers that we have, and actually say the things that are on our mind instead of like staying silent, doing the silent treatment, or
Mm-hmm.
anything else.
Oh,
And
well said.
it's weird because it's like the last thing we think about.
About
It's the last thing we
opening
think.
up. It's
Opening
so
up,
true. This is
using our
really a good
voice.
point. Opening up and talking about the things that you're listening to on this podcast, talking about them openly with our children. You're right. We all struggle with that.
Right.
Well said. Well said. And how
I
do
don't
we
know why
expect
that
our
is.
kids to articulate things if we are not creating a communication environment in the house. So that's what we're doing here. One of the best ways to help your kids to grow in, let's say, pick a topic, self-control, is to talk about it. Talk about your own struggles with self-control. Talk about how you're working on self-control. Don't just shame them for their lack of self-control, but partner with them. Use we language. Let's work on your self-control together. For another, with children, they're much more black and white. So it's really good to use black and white communication when it comes to teaching morals and values. Hey, this is right and this is wrong. I do this with my 7-year-old. You know what? That is wrong. We just don't do that. Well, why is it wrong? You got to explain it. You know what? We don't do that. That is wrong. Some people do that in other families. We do not do that here. Well, then why? And they explain it. But with teenagers and tweens, they don't appreciate the black and white language as much. So what do? Here's a tip. Here's a great tip. 5-star tip for teenagers. Instead of using black or white languages or speeches or lectures, you use storytelling. Use storytelling. Well, let me tell you a story about why hey, I know you're going to your first concert. I have some concerns. So can I tell you the quick story about a concert I went to? What do you mean? No, not right now. I don't want to hear a story from the 90s. You boomer.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I do. I really, if you're going to go to this concert, with your first concert without any parents, I really want to talk about this topic with you, and I'm going to tell you a story that happened
Once
to me
upon
at
a
a
time.
concert
This
I
is
went to.
hilarious. This would have
Right?
been a funny conversation.
Oh,
Okay.
no,
How'd
because
that go?
Well, it goes good. Kids, let's say, okay, here's a good example. All right. All right. This is on the whim. My daughters are going to go to their first concert by themselves eventually. I think my oldest daughter already been to some concerts by herself. And just to be real talk with you, I don't want my daughters going crowd surfing at a punk rock show or rock show and then having men grab their breasts or their privates. I don't want that for my daughters. Right?
Right. That's a reasonable dad thought right there. I would not either. Correct.
Do? Am I going to say you're not going to a concert? Maybe. Or am I going to say, hey, no crowd surfing? Is that going to work? Or am I going to do
story time?
Did I do what I did? In my own way, I shared stories about how, I went to a lot of concerts in San Diego growing up, and that was a big thing. And unfortunately, I did that. I grabbed girls, breasts then they were crowd surfing, and I'm really embarrassed about it, and I'm ashamed of it. It wasn't right.
No, you were doing the right. You were keeping them afloat. You were helping them surf the crowd, Sean. This is what you were doing.
Well, unfortunately, I did more than that, and it's actually in the form of like even sexual abuse, right? It's like a thing that people do. You crowd surf, but it's wrong. So, that's just one little snippet of parenting tip. If you have an X-rated scary story or something you don't want them to do, and they're teenagers, will enjoy the art of storytelling, right? Instead of giving them pep talk about don't do drugs or don't smoke or don't drink and drive, open up and tell them a juicy story. Be very effective.
Right. That is so funny. My 9-year-old just the other day asked his mom, "Hey, have you ever almost had a near-death experience? Like, have you almost died? I want to know. Like, have you ever had a close call?"
Yeah.
there's some stories
call?
that you're like,
what'd she say?
Yeah.
Did she have some? Did she open
well,
up?
Think about it. We made some stupid decisions growing up. All of us do, right? I mean,
hopefully
it's a miracle.
Did. Hopefully you did, right? If you didn't, then maybe you'd spend too much time on a screen growing
I think
up.
I was with you one time. We took a shopping cart, put someone in, and rammed as fast as we could down a hill and hit a curb just to fly. Like, just things that if you hit your head, you don't. Let's go.
If you hit your
head, who knows what's going to happen?
I didn't even think about. Yeah, we weren't thinking about that.
We don't think about that stuff.
Hitting your head, you could die. Actually, yeah, we did.
You could definitely die.
Go kart, putting shopping carts and doing dangerous things with shopping carts.
But that's like minor compared to some of the stuff that people do. Whether it's just you just turned 21 and you're out on the town and you go too far or whatever it is. In that moment, though, in this story, she didn't tell him the whole thing. He's too young to hear, but it would be a good reminder for story time in the future for sure. I would never thought about that. That's a great example. Use story time. past
Storytelling
experiences,
is a.
and maybe this is a way to connect more with your
It
kids,
is.
with them not thinking you're such a boomer and you're so out of touch with reality and you never had fun. Look at you now. You're an old grump and you read the paper on Sundays or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, no, I used to be crazy.
Yes, and that's why stories teach, they capture and they humanize us to our kids, which is something that we need to do. It's hard for them to see us as human beings. Ready for our second point? We won't spend as much time on this one. What kids wish their parents knew? Are you ready for this? You ready for number two?
Yes. Number
Well, I know
two.
you're ready because you wrote it.
Oh,
So
geez.
tell us what it is and why it's number two.
For me, I wasn't like a defiant kid. I feel like I was a very responsible kid. So I don't have this. I wish my parents knew how hard it was as social media was being introduced and the stress I felt. I mean, I know
Mm-hmm.
kids right now are going through so much. But as an adult, now a parent raising kids, I wish my parents knew how much I appreciated their support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, overall their love, but I mean more of their support for me.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. So can I ask you questions?
and yeah, and I was gonna say, and I wish they knew how much I appreciated their sacrifice.
Oh, okay. So as a young person, you really wish your parents knew how much you appreciated their sacrifice and support.
Yeah,
Okay, now can I ask some follow-up questions?
sure.
Do you think they knew how much you appreciated and were thankful for their sacrifice and support?
Probably not. I mean, I never said it. I never used these lip flappers to tell them that. I
Right, the
just
lip flappers. Why
the lip
not?
flappers.
Why
I
not?
feel like I was just a good kid, and hopefully they knew that I felt that
Hmm.
way because I was being good.
Did did anyone ever say to you, "Hey, son, your words mean so much to me. So the more you can just keep telling me how much you're grateful for, how much you see me in their own way. You see how much my sacrifices, how much sacrificing I'm doing for you. It really means a lot to me. So please speak up." Do you remember anybody saying anything like that to you?
No, because Sean, people don't talk like that. That is not a thing.
Well, guess what?
Okay?
Um, we do talk like that now because this is why we do this podcast, because our kids are not psychic. This is what I coach parents. And if you are interested in being coached by me or talking with me, I want invite all you to listen to this to join my new VIP community. I do 3 group coaching calls a week. It comes with unlimited one-on-ones with me. I can give you my text number. You can watch 75 of my teaching videos, all of my assessments, my tools. Come on, join the VIP community. But we do talk like that because let me share 2 teachings with you and everyone. You ready, Jordan? The first one is that kids are not psychic. They cannot read our minds. So if you want your kids to fill your bucket with love and goodness and gratitude, you've got to speak up. Think of it this way. This last Christmas, you probably got your kids some things for Christmas that they wanted. But why? Why did you
Because
pretend
they
to be
told
Santa?
us.
Because they told us. They made a
Right.
Christmas list. So I'm going to read a list of words for you. And if you want to experience these emotions in your parenting, in your family life, in your marriage, you've got to speak up. And you've got to send over some nice evites with your words because people are not psychic. And then I'm going to read you a personal letter that my daughter wrote to me to prove to you that what I'm talking about works. And this is why we're up there with all those smart women, because of this type of stuff. If you want to feel acceptance actually portrayed, adequate affection, appreciation is what Jordan just hit on. Appreciation, approval, assistance, connection, care, comfort, commitment, companionship, competence, connection, creative, artistic, grace. If you want to feel like a hero, hope, important, intimacy, closeness, contentment, loved, partnership, harmony, passion, or peacefulness in your parenting intervention, I'm just going to stop with the P's. When you got to speak up, and this is how you can speak up. Hey, son, thank you for saying thank you. I don't know if you knew this, but when you say thank you to me, it means so much to me. It like really just fills my bucket and it means the world to me. So please please keep saying thank you to me. It means so much. Hey, daughter, I just want to tell you, when you give me hugs like this, it just like makes my day. I don't know if you knew this, but like getting hugs from you is one of the best parts of my life. Hey, son, I got to tell you, this this like fishing trip we just went on, I you this might sound a little weird to you, but this is like one of the highlights of my life. Just fishing with my son is like a dream come true. I want you to know this. Hey, teen or teenager, I know that you're really busy with your friends and I love it, but just having you here for this family dinner and just listening to you share your life with us, and the fact that you weren't on your phone, you were hanging out with grandma and grandpa, you were just present with us, like I feel so loved by you. And I don't know if you knew that, but thank you, because tonight was incredible. You
That's
talk like that
powerful.
to your kids, that's like your
Right.
wish list.
It's almost like I need to set a reminder on my phone to remind myself, hey, your kids might be being bad right now, but they're not trying to be bad, right? So it just pops up every day so I can read it, right? So it
Mm,
puts a reminder in my mind. And then B, another reminder that says, have you complimented your kids today for anything? Have you told
mm.
them what makes you happy? Because that's good. I just don't think about that every day to do that.
Like I'm not very good at dog training. I have a 1 year old and I don't know anything. But I think in dog training world, you're supposed to like give dogs treats a lot and like give them positive feedback. So wouldn't that
Yeah.
make sense that with our kids, when they do something that really meets our desires or fill our hearts, we open up our mouths and we say, "Hey, I just want you to know like how much you helping me with this project means to me, or helping you helping me with the dishes or emptying the dishwasher. I feel really cared for when you empty the dishwasher and you empty the trash." What, dad? You feel cared for because I empty the
Right.
garbage? Drama
Right.
much? Yeah.
Yeah.
What, are you
Totally.
okay? Yeah,
Right.
I'm just letting you know. You probably didn't know how much that means to me that you emptied the garbage without being asked. Okay, dad. So thank you. Right? That stuff
Right.
changes the relationship because they
Yeah.
see you, and remember, everyone wants to feel seen.
You know, there's this. All right, I'm going to, since we started this podcast about psychoanalyzing and I said movies. So, anybody who's seen the movie The Atom Project? It's on Netflix. I love it. It was great. It's about time travel. It's got Ryan Reynolds in it. It's a feels good, dorky movie that I enjoyed.
I like
Plus, I
it
love
too.
time
Yeah.
travel. So there's this moment when he travels back into time as an adult and he sees his 12-year-old self. And his 12-year-old self is flapping his lips and just kind of like this guy who gets beat up a lot. And he's not really nice to his mother. But as an adult, he sees how much his mother is sacrificing for him. But in that
Yes.
moment as a kid, he doesn't see it. So the kid's just being a punk to his mom all the time. And there's this one scene wherein Ryan Reynolds is an adult at the bar and his mom walks in and his mom's talking to the bartender and he
Yeah.
sees her and he's like, oh my gosh, there she is. And they start talking. And the mom is talking about how she loves her son, but he's just going through some things. They lost her husband and his dad's gone. And she's just going through a lot. And then the adult Adam says, have you ever told your son you feel this way? And she's like shocked that he would like,
Yes.
no, I put on a front. I pretend everything's fine. I pretend I have everything under control and we're good to go. But you're saying do the opposite. You're saying we need to allow people to see our vulnerabilities. So where does this idea come that has made so many people think like, no, I have to put on a front. I can't cry. I need to show that I'm, going to make it through rather than showing the vulnerability as an adult.
I don't know the answer to that question. I have to think about it. That is such a great question. Why are we like this? Great question. It's like another way. That story was incredible. It's like another way of saying, parents, why do we continue to struggle in humanizing ourselves to our own children? I do a lot of teaching on that. I normally, if I talk about humanizing ourselves, it's about humanizing ourselves, help our kids see our pain, our sadness, our confusion, our disconnection. But today's episode, what we focus it on is helping our kids see our humanism, about how we feel good inside, how we feel loved, how we feel connected, we feel respected, we feel seen, right? So I don't know the reason right now, but I do know the solution. And I want to close our episode by reading a special letter to you, Jordan.
From your daughter.
So I'm not going to tell you which daughter to protect her privacy,
That's okay.
but I got a special Father's Day letter. And this one daughter writes me letters because I don't really like getting cards. I don't like Hallmark cards. Um,
Yeah, but
so
a card is like a letter. I mean, they write in it like a letter,
yeah,
right?
they're fine. I mean, I don't dislike cards. That's too strong. I just tell my family, hey, you either don't get me a card, or if you
Okay.
want to, just write down a few like handwritten, things to me. So this is
Yeah.
something that this one daughter wrote me. And the reason why is because she's not psychic, is because I've spoken up about how much words mean to me and how much I love getting these from her and from my other kids and my wife. So this is what she wrote me. And as you listen to this, here's why I want you to I want you to do this. I want you to imagine that these words are from your children to you, because I do not know you and I've never met your children. But I feel very confident this is how your kids feel about you. And they don't have the words right now. And they may not have the ability to articulate it. So Jordan, as you listen to this, I want you to imagine this is coming from your three children. And everyone listening at home, I want you to imagine that this is your children's face and their words coming straight to your heart. Dear Dad, happy Father's Day. I'm sorry I'm getting this to you late. I want you to know how much I care about you and everything you do for me as my dad. I've made so many memories with you and looking forward to making more. I had such a fun time during summer 2020, it's COVID time, with you when we played board games and hung out all the time. Thank you for caring about me and helping me out with whatever I need. I'm looking forward to the memories we make through high school years. Thank you for the way you raised me and how you taught me about everything. I believe the reason I'm more mature than most people my age is because of you. Being around you and your job and you and mom, being strong Christians has really helped affected me in a good way. You've taught me all I need to know about interacting with other people and what type of mindset I should have. I'm lucky to have such an amazing father figure in my life, and there's many that don't experience that. Thank you. I love you.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable. That's amazing. That's every father's dream. What an amazing letter. Was she there when you read it?
Yeah, we read
Yeah.
it, and I read it, and that is very heartwarming. But I really do believe that if your kids, that your kids feel the same way about you, they do, and I'm
Yeah.
thankful. That's my attitude of gratitude. Is that letter, and that what kids wish their parents knew. They want us to know the words of that letter, that they're grateful, that they see us, they're learning from us, they're taking the good, and they're leaving the bad, and they enjoy us. And those are the words of our children.
That's beautiful.